So the big news breaking right now, 11 inmates vanished overnight from the Orleans Justice Center right here in New Orleans.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking stuff.
And they've already caught one, apparently, but that still leaves 10 out there. A manhunt is definitely underway.
It really is. And it's a stark reminder, isn't it, about, the vulnerabilities even in places that are supposed to be secure.
Absolutely. Makes you immediately wonder how. How could this even happen on this scale?
What broke down?
Exactly. And that's what we want to get into for you today. We know you want to understand what really went wrong, what the risks are now, and maybe the bigger picture without getting totally swamped by all the news alerts. So we've dug through the reports, pulled out the important bits. We're going, beyond just the headlines.
Right. Let's start with the escape itself, because the timing and, frankly, the way they did it, it's quite something.
It really is. It almost sounds like something out of a movie script. Happened around, 1:01 a.m. Friday morning?
That's the time given, yeah.
But here's the kicker. They didn't even realize until 8:30 a.m. during the routine headcount.
That's over 7 hours.
7 hours. That's a huge head start.
A massive window.
Yeah.
And the first step, getting through a cell wall.
Yeah, photos show this, big hole. You can see daylight through it.
Just punched right through.
Yeah.
You have to wonder about the construction there and maybe what tools they used or had access to.
And then, almost like they're mocking the situation, they apparently left a message right near the hole.
What did it say?
Too easy, lol. TOO easy, lol.
Wow. Just wow. That's bold.
It is, isn't it? The boldness is kind of stunning, even while you know how serious this is.
That kind of brazenness, it could suggest they felt pretty confident. Or maybe that security was, known to be lax.
So from that hole in the wall, what next?
Well, reports say they got into some kind of maintenance corridor, that out through a supply dock door, scaled a wall, and then ran across the interstate.
So not a simple dash, multiple steps.
Exactly. It suggests, maybe some planning, coordination even.
It really does. I saw someone online joke they Shawshanked their way out.
Yeah, I saw that too. A bit dark, maybe, but it kind of captures how elaborate it sounds.
Which brings us straight to the big question. How? How was this even possible?
Well, Sheriff Susan Hudson, she's been pretty direct about it.
Yeah. What's she saying?
She's blaming defective locks and security failures she says they've known about for a long time.
And it sounds like these weren't secret worries either. She's apparently raised the alarm about these locks before.
Reports say she warned the consent decree judge, the city council, even during budget meetings.
Okay, so for you listening, a consent decree, that usually means a court is overseeing the jail because of past problems, right?
That's generally the context, yes. So these warnings seem to be well documented. It wasn't a surprise, at least not to her.
And she's pointing to the jail's age, the infrastructure itself.
Yes, that seems to be the key factor she's highlighting. I mean, there are reports that inmates could literally pull a locked cell door off its track.
Just pull it off.
Apparently so. That tells you something pretty fundamental about the state of those locks, doesn't it?
It really does. When she says defective, that could mean anything from just old and worn out to, fundamentally flawed designs.
Right. Not up to modern standards, maybe. A critical vulnerability.
And that wall they went through. More details are coming out about that, too.
Oh, yeah.
Supposedly it was pretty thin, maybe only 4 inches thick, and near a pipe room.
Okay. So maybe easier to breach, and the pipe room could offer, cover. Or maybe even access to something useful.
Could be. Raises questions about the original build, definitely, and maintenance.
For sure. But it might not just be the building itself.
What do you mean?
Well, Sheriff Hudson also said there are signs, indications, that the detainees received assistance.
Assistance from inside.
From individuals inside our department, is how she put it.
Wow, okay, that adds a whole other layer. Inside help.
It really does.
Yeah.
And the police superintendent, Ann Kirkpatrick, she seems to agree. She said it's more than likely they had help.
More than likely.
Yeah. And she also thinks they've probably already changed out of their jail clothes.
Which implies even more coordination. A support network, maybe.
It certainly suggests that. And for you, thinking about this, the idea that this escape could have been helped from within the system, that's deeply concerning. Raises huge questions about trust and accountability.
No kidding. Okay, so let's talk about the escapees themselves. Who are these individuals?
Right. So originally 11 got out. One, Kendall Miles, was caught pretty quickly.
Okay.
There were some later reports maybe a second person was recaptured, but honestly, the information's a bit murky still. So let's say at least 9 are confirmed still at large.
Got it. And the sheriff's office is calling them armed and dangerous.
Understandably, yes. And when you look at the charges they are facing,
Yeah.
it's serious stuff.
Like what?
Well, you've got murder, attempted murder.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Groves, for instance, he was already convicted for that Mardi Gras Day shooting back in 2018.
A convicted murderer escaped.
Yeah.
That highlights the danger right there.
Absolutely. And others. Antoine Massé, he was in for domestic abuse involving strangulation.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly violent.
Mm-hmm.
Linton Van Buren Jr. had a whole list. Illegal weapons, felon with a firearm, obstruction of justice, even bringing contraband into the jail.
Yeah.
Leo Tate Sr., burglary and weapons charges. Corey Boyd was waiting for trial on a second-degree murder charge.
So we're talking murder, domestic violence, guns. It's a mix, but all very serious.
Definitely. It underscores why the manhunt is so intense and why the community needs to be vigilant. These aren't minor offenders.
And the age range. You said mostly young.
Yeah, 19 up to 42, but most seem to be in their 20s.
Okay. And the community impact. It's already happening, right? You mentioned victims being moved.
That's right. Reports confirm that victims connected to some of these escapees have been relocated for their safety. That tells you how credible the threat is perceived to be.
And the manhunt itself. Who's involved?
It's a big operation. You've got the U.S. Marshals Task Force, NOPD, Louisiana State Police, a multi-agency effort.
And that first capture, Kendall Miles. That was interesting. Technology played a part.
It seems so. Facial recognition on a Project Noel A camera in the French Quarter apparently helped pinpoint him.
Shows they're using all the tools they have, I guess.
It does. And meanwhile, back at the jail, the sheriff's office says they're doing a full investigation, looking at protocols, staff, security, everything.
As you'd expect.
And the state attorney general weighed in, too, called the escape beyond unacceptable promised investigations. There's going to be a lot of scrutiny on the OJC now.
Yeah, you think. This whole thing really pushes you to think about prison escapes more broadly. We actually found some interesting research, a dissertation of all things.
Oh, yeah? What was the focus?
It was called Inmate, Incident, and Facility-Level Factors Associated with Escapes from Custody and Violent Outcomes. Quite a title, but it had some relevant points.
Okay. Sounds academic, but potentially useful. What did it find? Well, first, it stresses that, preventing escapes is like job number one for a correctional facility.
Makes sense.
But interestingly, while people might think escapes are always violent, the research suggests actual violence during an escape is relatively rare, statistically.
Oh, okay.
But, and this is the key part, there are specific factors that can raise or lower that risk.
And do those factors line up with what we're seeing here?
Some seem to, yeah. Like at the facility level, it talks about security level and infrastructure.
Ah, the defective locks again.
Exactly. That's a direct hit on infrastructure.
Yeah.
But the study also found that it's not just the physical stuff, it's also the inmate's perception of security. Like, are rules consistently enforced? That was almost as important.
So the overall security culture inside the jail matters too.
Precisely. Then there are incident-level factors, like the time of escape.
After midnight, in this case.
Right, which probably helped delay discovery, gave them more time.
Makes sense.
And finally, inmate-level factors, things like their criminal history.
Which we know is serious for many of these individuals. Violent charges.
Exactly. So that plays into assessing the potential risk they pose now that they're out.
It's really interesting how those layers connect the building, the timing, the people involved. Did the research mention anything about, the legal side of escape?
It did, briefly. Touched on how Louisiana law defines it. There's simple escape.
Yeah.
Basically just leaving without putting anyone in danger.
Okay.
And then aggravated escape, which is when the escape itself endangers human life. The penalties are obviously quite different.
Right. Simple escape is 2 to 5 years. Aggravated is 5 to 10. And they run after whatever sentence they were already serving.
Correct. Consecutively. And given the charges these guys faced and the danger they pose now, you could certainly argue this leans towards aggravated escape.
Definitely. And understanding all this, it gives you, the listener, so much more context than just the breaking news alerts, doesn't it? You see the complexity behind facility security and what happens when it fails.
So let's just quickly recap the main points. We've got a major escape from the Orleans Justice Center. Looks like it's down to a mix of failing infrastructure, those locks especially, and quite possibly help from the inside. The inmates still out there are facing serious, often violent charges. They pose a real risk, and there's a massive manhunt going on.
And at least one recapture so far, but still a very active Very serious situation. Investigations are happening, which hopefully will tell us exactly how this went down.
And crucially, what needs to change so it doesn't happen again?
Which leaves a big question for you to think about. We heard the sheriff warned about these problems repeatedly. We see research showing factors like infrastructure are key, so what does this whole incident really tell us about priorities, about resources, about the challenges facing our correctional systems?
It's a tough question, but an important one.
Definitely something to chew on. And if you want to dig even deeper, you could look up those Louisiana escape laws or find more research on escape risk factors. It's complex, but it really matters for public safety, for the justice system.
Absolutely. So hopefully this deep dive gave you a clearer, more complete picture of what's happening, going beyond the headlines, saving you some time, but giving you those crucial insights.
And that's really what we aim for here. Until our next deep dive, stay informed and please stay safe out there.